Hey, Sens fans, welcome to Season 6, Episode 10 of the Senstennial Podcast. Thanks for coming along tonight on this journey of ours. We know it's been a little while since we've recorded, but man, times have been hectic. But we're getting down to business tonight. We're going to talk about
Why has
Ottawa.
it been a while, Matt? Was there something going on in your life that led
Yeah,
us
was there
to
something
taking a bit of
super
a break?
important?
Of course, you guys, some of you may know, was planning a wedding, finally got hitched, good to go, walked in to the ceremony to Danger Flutes, which, as you all know, is an absolute must as an Ottawa Senators fan. Benet was probably gleaming up there, not too sure. I know a
I
lot
fist
of
pumped.
there were a lot of Sens fans at my wedding who were very happy that came on. Unfortunately, our dear friend Matt here was under the weather and was unable to attend.
Yeah, I
Um,
just wanted to say, just to clarify, I was invited. I couldn't make it because I was so sick that if I did show up to a wedding, I would be like that guy.
I'm pretty
I
sure.
would be the super spreader.
Oh boy. Well, Liz and I think we might be getting a cold or something. So somebody must have spread something there, buddy. But you know what? Worth it. It was really fun. It was great. That's all I can say on that front. But
Yes, congratulations, Matt, and
thank you.
congratulations to our editor, Liz, who is also married to Matt, which is what a crazy coincidence. Do you guys think this happened? Like that's how they got together? Maybe. Time will tell. Senstennial insider knowledge.
Yes. So thank you for that, guys. Let's shift focus to the Ottawa Senators and their January record, which started out a bit rough. They lost four straight games, one of them being an overtime loss to Detroit, but then they wrapped off wins in five of their next six games and ended up capping off February with a nice little record of 8-5-2. So above 500, they got a couple loser points in there. Shut out a few times. That's sometimes it happens. Unfortunately, it happened a lot in January, but they turned around and right off the bat in February they decided to start the month off hot and won a big 6-0 game, shutting out the Minnesota Wild. And Leevi Merilainen gets another shutout as a rookie goalie. And we'll get to Merilainen, but first I want to throw it over to you guys and get your thoughts on a decent showing in January, all things considered. And I'll throw it over to Bennett first for his thoughts.
And I actually have a question for Bennett.
Prévu.
Do you believe yet?
There, but
Like, where are you at? Like, do you actually think they can make the playoffs?
belief is happening around me. I don't know if it's like penetrated me yet, if you know what I mean. I'm aware I phrased that in the weirdest possible way.
No. You phrased it in the perfect way.
It's like, do I believe like in my heart? Like I've been hurt too many times to like fully believe,
Mhm.
but I think if someone around me believes, I can support that. Um, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
That is the most run around
Bennett
beating
response.
of Bush I've ever heard.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I will believe that the Sens are a playoff team when it's game
clinched.
82 and we're in a playoff
Yeah,
spot.
fair.
Which isn't that I think that they can't do it. I think that things are pointing in that direction right now. But I have just been hurt too many times to believe it until it's real. That being said, to answer your original question, Matt, I think if we had recorded 2 weeks ago, we would have had a very different take on where the Sens are. We would have seen ourselves sliding down the standings, shutout after shutout in the opponent's favor, anemic offense, guys experiencing long goal droughts. But thankfully, the last 4 or 5 games have seen a lot of that dissipate. We got a big win in the Battle of Ontario a couple weekends ago. Went back to back again, beating Utah, and then big statement wins against two of the best teams in the league, against Washington and Minnesota, including like a quite dominant shutout against Minnesota, as you said. So obviously that's gone a long way to sort of like assuaging fans' fears that the team is letting it slip. Obviously now tonight, I haven't been able to get the game on yet, but I did read that Allmark was backing up Forsberg tonight, which means that he is back in the fold, um, which is obviously good news. He looked really strong in November and December, and well, Merilainen and Forsberg have, to greater or lesser extents, been capable understudies in his absence. I think this team is absolutely better with Allmark and net. And the team has found a way to score again, which is good. So things are progressing. The more every game that ticks by that we're still in a playoff spot, the likelihood goes up. And right now it's about, locking things down, playing smart hockey, and making sure that that win column continues to tick upwards.
Now, on that note about scoring, Bennett, I just want to give you a pattern I've noticed. So when the Sens beat Toronto, they won 2-1. Then they beat Utah 3-1. Then they beat Washington 5-4. And then they beat Minnesota 6-0. So each game that they're winning, they're going up another goal. So I don't know if they're planning on beating Nashville like 7-1 or something like that, but I'm all for it.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Now, Matt, I'll throw it back over to you. And what were your thoughts on this fine January?
Well, it was a good month. As we kind of pointed out, it was a bit of a rough start to it, and losing Allmark, then you're kind of worried about what's going to happen with goaltending, and like Forsberg really wasn't giving us anything to hope for, and then Merilainen shows up and starts showing up. In his tenure with the Sens, unfortunately, he was sent down yesterday, which I think is the correct move. He had 3 shutouts and 920 save percentage, 923 save percentage, something like that. And I think he just played really well as a rookie. On top of that, the Senators' defensive game kept getting better, and that gives goalies a lot to work with. The high danger chances aren't coming fast and furious like they did in years past, and I think if we got this level of goaltending last year, things are definitely different. But to Bennett's point, though, the forwards and the scoring and the offense just looked sad and non-existent. There wasn't a lot to talk about, and there was a stretch between the Pittsburgh Penguins win. Actually, no, I'm wrong. From that game to most recently yesterday or 2 games ago against Minnesota, the Sens had only had over 30 shots 3 times in the span of 15 games. And that was a alarm bells were ringing in my head, because that means your forwards aren't wanting to shoot the puck. And with quality forwards like Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson, those guys should be shooting the puck, and they just weren't. Brady Tkachuk looked the most useless I've ever seen him look, and we were still winning games. And I think the biggest point for me was seeing the Sens fall out of the playoff picture for like a game or two, and then immediately get back into a wild card and are now sitting in 3rd in the Atlantic. That's huge. That's awesome. It's hard not to be positive about that, especially when this team isn't something to be positive about in years past. But now, like, the vibes are high, and beating Minnesota like we did, who is a very good team, all things are coming up Millhouse, tell you that.
All right. Now, we already brought up goaltending a little bit, but I want to kind of delve into that a little bit more. So, Bennett, I want to get your thoughts on Leevi Merilainen, recently sent back down to the Belleville Senators. Now that Allmark is healthy, as Matt just mentioned, and what did you see of Leevi Merilainen? I think it's hard to say that maybe we expected as strong of results as he put up, but what were your expectations of him? And then, what did you see from him?
Well, first of all, I think I'd be obligated to direct listeners to the piece that I wrote for the Senstennial blog called The Merilainen Moment, where I talk about my thoughts on Leevi Merilainen. I think since writing that piece, he recorded 2 additional shutouts as well, or at least one. So yeah, Merilainen was great. He arguments could be made depending on how the next few weeks go that he may have saved the Sens season at a time when Allmark was out and Forsberg was not playing well. Merilainen put up some really strong performances for the team. I mean, you listed off before, Dave, but it's worth repeating. I mean, uh, his record in 12 games was 8-3-1. He had a 925 save percentage, which is the best of any of our goalies, a 199 goals against, and 3 shutouts. I mean, you can't really ask for more than that from a rookie goaltender. Uh, People were saying that there were shades of the Hamburglar run. Now, in this particular case, Forsberg was also in the mix, and because of the fact that Merilainen is a 2-way contract, he's the one who has to step back and go down to the AHL, which makes perfect sense. Forsberg is someone that you know, other teams could feasibly be interested in picking up off of waivers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Merilainen, he did more than could possibly have been expected of him. I think listeners will know that I've never been the highest guy on Sogard, and I think that Merilainen could well have played himself up the depth chart by 1, if not 2 spots, depending on whether the team decides to keep Forsberg around for next season. I think that he could be positioning himself to be the Senators' backup in the next season or two, and I think that would be a really good role for him. And he's certainly shown that he can step up when needed as well. Now, it's still a small sample size, so I don't want to necessarily get too ahead of ourselves here. But I mean, hey, you can only perform in the games given to you, and in the small sample size that he's been provided with, he's been lights out.
Yeah. I look at what he did for the team, and I absolutely think he saved the Senators season, because Forsberg wasn't putting up any good starts, wasn't giving them wins. And here comes a rookie goaltender who, Matt Sogard was supposed to be that guy, and he wasn't. And then Merilainen comes in and does exactly what he is asked of him. So I absolutely think that this could really come in to form as Merilainen becoming the backup next season and Forsberg's inevitable departure, which, that's the nature of hockey. And it's realistic. You need younger guys, and Merilainen's just been better.
Yeah, and I think that's really it. And you look at Forsberg's contract and, making nearly $3 million. And yes, the cap is rising this coming summer, but clearing up 3 million or nearly 3 million, when you bring up, if you count bringing up Merilainen to the NHL and what his contract would be against the cap. But those are the kind of moves where teams that win the cup, and I'm not saying the Suns are going to win the cup as soon as next year, but teams that are cup contenders, they find those savvy depth players who are making not that much money, but emerge at just the right time to really help put that team over the top, whether it's in a depth role or, whether they are a core player or something like that. It's just that player who brings that extra spark you need, or is able to backstop the team to more wins than you expect them to, like Merilainen has. I think that goes a long way with a team that's competing and hopefully in the next few years will be a cup contending team. We'll see how this season goes, and we'll see how, Steos's next couple off seasons go, and see how he builds the team and adds to the team. But I think that's the goal for the Sens, and I think Merilainen gives them a better chance of reaching that goal than Forsberg does.
Yeah, I think that's just absolutely realistic to expect. And you got to get younger and you got to get cheaper. And when your backup makes, 2.75 mil, you got to reevaluate sometimes, anyways.
Now, looking at some of the forward players, or I guess I was going to say forward players who are younger. I don't know. I worded that wrong, but essentially the young and up and coming young players who are at forward like Pinto, well, even on defense with Sanderson. In January, they've really been leading the charge. They've been some of the leading scorers of the team. Tim Stützle's come alive lately, but when Stützle and Tkachuk and Giroux were kind of fading out a bit, guys like Sanderson and Pinto and Ridly Greig kind of stood up and stood out and made their presence known and were able to provide that depth scoring that the Sens needed. So, you know, hopefully David Perron coming back can help add to that depth scoring. But what have you guys thought about the young guns stepping up in the lineup while the big guns go silent?
Okay, I can.
Yeah,
I'll take
take
it.
us away,
Yeah, sure.
Matt.
I think it really showed the impressive skill set of Shane Pinto in the month of January. Not only was he out on the PK, he was getting time on the power play, and he was generally centering the second line with Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson. But those line combos changed a lot. But I thought he's been very good. Ridly Greig finally started picking it up. He started providing a little more value than what he was, which was mostly just defensive proficiency. But I think somebody who like I've got to give a shout out to for the last like 5 games has been Josh Norris. I thought he was just a monster and one of the best players the Sens had, and he scored 2 shorthanded goals in consecutive games, and was getting a chance shorthanded literally every game. He was getting his position on the power play and taking his shots, and it always looked lethal. And then, of course, like luck has to have it, he gets hurt. Seemingly lower body, so that's positive, and he'll be out till the Four Nations is done.
Sorry, it sounds funny to say that a lower body injury is positive, but for a
Yeah,
guy with Josh Norris's
yeah,
injury
it's not a
history,
shoulder,
I
so
get what you're saying.
yeah. So I think like when our offense kind of stagnated, some of the depth really shone through, and you need that. You really need that.
Yeah, and you read my mind because I was going to get to Josh Norris after talking about the young guns. But I guess Benet, if you want to, chime in about the performances of some of the younger guys, and also, chime in about your thoughts on Josh Norris lately, then feel free.
Yeah, Norris has stepped up in a big way. He's shown himself to be a threat on the PK, which is always nice to kind of like put teams on a back heel a little bit when they should be on the front foot if they're aware of like the threat of someone like Norris or Pinto on the penalty kill. So it's nice to keep other teams on their toes that way. I'd still love to see Norris do it a little bit more on the power play. I mean, we're increasingly far removed from that time when he was, the trigger man on the Sens power play, and on a 40 goal pace. I don't know that we're ever going to see that player again, because he just looks terrified to shoot the puck a lot of the time. Certainly, at least not, a one-timer like he used to, So, I think right now he's playing like he is sort of like a middle six center who has some offensive upside and can hurt teams in multiple situations, but he's still not quite at what the Sens expected him to be, which is a guy who can put up 30 goals a year and be a threat on the power play as well as locking it down defensively. in the middle six part of the lineup. So I think Sens fans will just have to adjust their expectations for him and his contract. That being said, he's missing some time again, so opportunity for other guys to step up. Ridly Greig might slot in at center. Pinto has shown an ability to be effective in different situations, so hopefully those guys can hold it down. But yeah, I have to be a little disappointed in a lot of the role players that the Senators brought on in the offseason. I mean, Perron and Amadio have not looked very effective most of the time. I know Perron has had other stuff going on, and so I don't want to be too critical of him, but unfortunately, the case is that he's making $4 million and he's hardly played, and when he has played, he hasn't really been an effective contributor. So, that is what it is. Obviously, there are more important things in hockey, and he's worried about his family's health, and that's legit. But from like a team management perspective, it's not great, and it's not a good look. And yeah, I mean, I think that when the wins are coming, it's great, obviously. But the forward depth is so thin right now that like if one or two guys hit a cold streak, our offense kind of disappears. And I think that's what we saw near the start of January is that, we can survive if Tkachuk is kind of misfiring, but Stutzler and Batherson are on. Or we can, keep it together if, Giroux hits a hot streak. But like Stutzler's cold. But it's like if two or three of those guys hit a rough patch, there isn't anyone else to step into that void really. And I think that's where the problems lie, the way the roster is currently set up, is that you can't really afford to have one or more of your stars hit a cold patch because there isn't really a lot of other help around them, which is why I think that the team's biggest need heading into the offseason is like a top six winger, someone who can ideally, and I mean, this obviously doesn't grow on trees, so I don't know how realistic it is, but someone who can score goals on the power play, has a good shot, and who can, bolster the offense so it's not completely reliant on, Stutzler and Tkachuk.
I'd say even leading up to the deadline, if they go out and acquire some sort of middle six forward to play on, their second or third line and just provide some depth scoring. I know people on social media have brought up a guy like Ryan Donato who's playing in Chicago, something like that, where you're not spending a bunch of assets to bring a guy in, but are instead just looking for something that can elevate your team a bit and probably, be a bit of an encouragement for the team. Because let's face it, when was the last time the Ottawa Senators were a buyer at the deadline? I know they brought in Chikrin before the deadline last year, but circumstances I think are a bit different this year, where the Sens have shown for now the past 2 months straight that they're able to hold a playoff position, not just make strides towards being in a playoff position. So I think that rewarding the team for their performance by adding a player to the roster would also just be like a morale booster, show that the management believes in the team and they want to add like another piece or two just to provide some extra guns to get some pucks in the back of the net. So we'll see what happens on that front. But maybe on that note, we can end it off by asking if there's one thing you would like to see from the team. It doesn't have to be an addition for the roster, but it could be, I don't know, any wish list thing. It could be even just something about special teams or whatever. I'll let you guys chime in. So, Matt, what would you go with if you could make like one change to the Ottawa Senators that you'd like to see?
I mean, I would probably say our power play be a lot more effective than it has been. It feels disorganized at best and mangled and jumbled at worst. It sometimes baffles me how it can be so bad with the quality of players that is on it. But let's hope that that changes. I think if they were more consistent on the power play, they would be a much more dangerous team, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, especially because right now they're sitting at ninth in the league for power play percentage. And obviously, I think a bunch of that was early in the season when the power play was basically their go-to for getting
Yeah, what
goals.
wasn't it like 60%
No,
at one
I
point?
think it like was around 45 or something. It
Yeah,
was
that's still
high, but yeah,
insane.
it was insane. But recently they've started scoring on the power play a bit more again, which is good. They've gotten kind of a bit of that mojo back. But yeah, definitely I think honing in on that consistency is key for Ottawa. Bennett, how about yourself? I know we just talked about bringing in some more depth scoring, but is there anything else you'd like to see the team add?
I would like to see someone on the Sens coaching staff like put an arm around Tim Stutz's shoulders and say it's okay to one time the puck. Because I mean
Or
he
shoot it
scored
in general, but
just shoot it in general, but I mean like it's something that he's commented on a few times. Oh, the team's trying to get me to shoot more. The team's trying to get me to shoot more. It's like, yeah, you should shoot more. I don't know how else to put it, my guy, but I mean, you saw that beauty of a one-timer he scored against Toronto. He has it in his locker. I just, I understand that Stills is more comfortable with the puck on his stick and he's a pass first, shoot second kind of guy, and I get that. Like he provides a lot of value to the team with that mindset, being, by far the team's best playmaker. But, on the power play, you don't have to be like an incredible playmaker because you already have an advantage. So I'd like to see maybe like him get a few looks near the face-off dot, being the guy to smash those pucks home. Because I mean, Batherson can find him on the power play. Sanderson can find him on the power play. I know it's maybe not like the most optimal use of his skill set, but good Lord, someone has to be on this team has to be willing to one time the puck when it comes to them because you see a whole lot of catch and release on the Sens power play, and I think it really doesn't do them a lot of favors.
All right, fair enough. For myself, good question. I'd like to see Brady Tkachuk get going. I think that he really started the season well. Um, him and Tim Stützle were neck and neck for the points leader on the team. Now he's fallen a bit behind, and Stützle is up at 52 points and Tkachuk's down at 41. He brings a lot to the team, but one of the things that he's been able to do consistently over the past 2 years is get to the net and get those greasy goals. And he's been able to do that occasionally, but it seems like since the calendar year flipped over to 2025, he's really struggled offensively. And I'm not quite sure what that is. I know the coaching staff have shifted lines up with, injuries to different players, but it'd be nice to see him get some consistency going in his game on the scoreboard. Because I know obviously hitting isn't an issue with him. He loves to do that. But I noticed it especially in the Washington game when they were in town last week. You could see he was like hesitant to make certain plays. He didn't seem like fully confident in himself. So I'm hoping that he can kind of get going again, get a bit more confidence in his game, get more consistency on the offensive side of the puck. And yeah, I would say that that would help the team out a lot. So that's what I'm going to go with.
completely agreed. I think he's already made a couple power moves tonight that lead me to believe that he's gonna get back to being the big bastard Brady Tkachuk.
Wow, we almost made it through a full episode without something that makes the episode get the explicit label. I'm proud of us, guys. We did it.
No, he meant bastard in the sense of like he is, born out of wedlock, not,
Yeah,
as not as an
duh.
insult. Um, so I think we can get away with this one.
All right.
Yeah,
Hell yeah. Can we get away with hell?
yep.
Hell
Probably.
yeah. All right, boys. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode. We'll hopefully record in the next week or two. I guess not next week because I'm going to Mexico. See ya. Enjoy the cold weather, Ottawa. But we'll definitely record after that, and hopefully the Sens will continue their hot streak here. And I'm not going to say the P word, but got to keep making strides there. So we'll see what happens. Go
Absolutely.
Sens, go.
Benny, you usually say it second.
Yeah, I know. Come on, Benet.
I don't want to jinx anything, man.
Go
Oh,
Sens go.
Alele Senators.
there we go. Look at
Ah,
that. We're expanding to
That's
the
right.
Quebec City region, which we didn't talk about tonight, and we'll ignore. Uh, have a good night, our fans out in Quebec City region, and also Ottawa Gatineau and the Prairie, or not the Prairies, the Maritimes. Ooh, they're gonna get me for that one. All right. See everybody. Have a good night. Go Suns, go.
Go
go
Sens,
Sens
go.
go.